Hi, this is Sean Hafer, and in this tutorial, we'll be looking at 3D layers in After Effects, 3D cameras, and also depth of field. So first off, I'm going to start with a new composition. We will jump in here. We'll call this 3D camera. And 720 is fine, 2997. And we'll do it at, let's go for 8 seconds. Okay, so now that we've got this set up, let's go ahead and create a background. So I'm going to come up to my layer, new, solid, and I think this looks pretty good. Let's go maybe a little yellower, a little more tan. That looks good. Okay. And just make sure you hit make comp size and then hit OK. And we will take this, hit enter to edit, and call it background. And I'm just going to go ahead and lock that. All right, so now let's create a couple shapes. So I'm going to come in here, grab my ellipse tool, and I'm going to click and drag holding shift and create a circle. I'm going to come in here, pick a nice softer color. So maybe something like a little purple. And I'm going to get rid of that stroke by clicking on my stroke up here and just saying no stroke there. Now, I want this to be centered, my anchor point to be centered in this. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Layer, Transform, Center Anchor Point in Layers Content. You can also do Command Option Home or Control Alt Home to do that as well. So I'm going to click that. And now we've got that set up. So I'm going to go for V to get back to my selection tool. I'm just going to move this somewhere over here. So now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. I'm just going to hit Command or Control D to duplicate that layer. And then I can select that, drag it over here. And then I'll go ahead and duplicate one more time and drag that one over here. So now that we've got these set up, we could arrange those if we want. If we wanted to make sure they were distributed, we could go back up to our Align tool, go down to Distribute Layers, and distribute horizontally if we wanted. And that'll distribute those guys. There we go. So now we've got these 3 circles. So let's change these colors. So in shape layer 2, we'll make that a tan, orangish. That looks good. And then let's go to this last one. Pick another color for that. Maybe let's go to a green. Okay. So we've got our 3 circles. And right now, these are 2D layers. Everything in here is a 2D layer. So what I want to do is go ahead and make just my circles 3D layers. We're going to leave the background as a 2D layer because when we use a camera, a 2D layer will always fill the viewport of the camera. So as we move the camera forward and back, it will always stay full frame. It won't get smaller as the camera moves away or larger as the camera moves forward. Now, but again, we won't get shadows or light effects on that background, but for what we're doing here, that's not important. I'm going to go ahead and go up here to make sure my renderer is in Classic 3D. And then I want to go to Active Camera. That's fine. And then instead of 1 view, let's do 2 views. And on this view, make sure that you've got top selected. So if you have a different view, just click on here and come over here and select top. So what I want to do now is I want to move these forward and back in space. So let's go ahead and take our shape layer 1, and I'm going to hit P for position, and let's take this back on our Z, let's say 1,000. We'll leave shape layer 2 where it is, and shape layer 3, let's take that, go to its position, and we'll make that negative 1,000. All right. So now we can see if we roll out, we've got these moving through space. And if I zoom out here a little bit, we can see this is even off the frame. Okay. And so now what I want to do is create a camera. So I'm going to go back to my active camera view here, click on that, and then go to Layer, New, Camera. And I'm going to do a one node camera, and that's fine. And we'll hit OK. Now you can see here we've got a camera, and I can move that forward and back. If I roll over here, hit my position, and I can go in my Z forward and back, and now you can see we are moving through space. Okay. So what I want to do, let's move this forward so that our purple is sort of out of the frame. So I'm just grabbed my Z, and well, that looks good. And we'll set a keyframe in our position. Now let's move forward, let's say 4 seconds, and we'll move it back so we can see all three of them. Negative 2900. It looks good. Okay, so now if we play this, and we can look over here in our view. All right, we've got basically our camera pulling back. We're sort of flying through that one, but that's okay. And I'm going to go ahead and add an easy ease to this. And let's actually make this down to 3 seconds. So we'll take that to 3. And I'll select both of these keyframes and hit F9 for easy ease. So now we get a little ease. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and go to my graph editor here. I want that to be a little bit of a slower stop. So with my position still selected, go to my graph editor, and I'll select my position here, and I will crank this way up this way, and maybe crank this one up a little this way. So now we'll have a nice speed up and then a slow ease. So let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's a lot nicer at the end. Okay, so then let's look at depth of field. So let me go sort of right here. We'll go to our camera and we will click on, roll it down so that we can get to our camera options. And if we look down here, we have a lot of options here. We can change the zoom of the lens. We can change our depth of field, focus distance, aperture, all of these different options here. So we want to first go ahead, depth of field, and turn it on. So now that I've got that on, go back to my keyframes here, depth of field on, and we'll just look at how this works. So when that's on, you can set an aperture size as well as a focus distance. So right now I'm going to take my focus distance and bring it up so it lines up right here with my center circle. And then you can see if I crank my aperture up, we start getting a front and back blur. So let's make that 2500, 2500.0. And you can see we really get a lot of blur here. Now, by default, you're on fast rectangle, which will render fast, but you can see it starts to get a little funky in here. So you can pick another shape, so maybe an octagon. And you can see each one of these sort of iris shapes give you a different look. So that's kind of up to you where you want that to go. You can also change your blur level, how much of that blur here is happening, but I usually leave it at 100%. All right, so now if we take that focus distance, we could crank that forward and zoom into that one, bring that into focus, vice versa. So what we'll do, let's go ahead and set it so that when we're at the end of our move, we want our focus distance to have our green circle in focus. So right here, so mine is about 1900. And then these two are very out of focus. So what we're going to do, let's go ahead and move through. So now you can see as we come through, we're getting our blur. And I'm going to go back to my fast rectangle just so it previews faster. So we're coming through, boom, boom, blurry, blurry, focus. Now add about let's say at 5 seconds. Let's go ahead and set a keyframe on our focus distance. And then we will move forward a little, crank that focus distance up to where that one's in focus. That'll set another keyframe. And then let's go forward another little bit, a little past 7 seconds, and get that last one in focus. Okay, so now we've got that. Now if we play this back, then we'll rack focus, boom, boom. Now, so that smooth transition is fine. That might be what you want to do, roll through those focuses there. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and select these again, select all 3 of those, give it the old easy ease, so F9 or right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease. And then let's go to our curve again, and we will go make sure we're in our speed graph. And now over here, we're going to just do these 2. There's those, and we'll do the same thing. Crank it up, pull this one out. So we ease in, and then we'll have a little pause there. So let's see how that feels now. Nice. It feels more of a kind of a rack focus. So I'm going to go ahead and just select that one. And then this one. Let's get that up a little higher too. So they're both about the same. Great. All right. So now if we come out here, we can watch the whole thing again. Let's just go back to our single view. And you could see where you could open up the aperture. You could, bring all of them into focus. You could do various things. So that was just a really quick intro to cameras and depth of field and 3D layers in After Effects. Thanks for watching.